I wanted to introduce our speaker. Adam Frost works as coordinator of computer care and learning, educationally oriented computer helping company. So, based on that,
I can take it from there. So, hello everyone. Thanks for coming, and for the people who are schlepping from the north, thank you for schlepping. My name's Adam. I'm a computer repairman. I spend a lot of time giving advice to people about their computers. As Mark mentioned, our company's a little bit different. Most computer companies in Boston are outsourcing companies. So basically, you come to them, they say, give us some money, get away from your computer. We'll take care of it all, pay us every month, and you won't have any problems.
Oh, it drives me nuts.
We are the opposite. We say it is your computer, it is your problem. We'll help you. We'll give you advice, we'll give you support, we'll teach your staff, we'll expand your capabilities, and you'll learn about your computers and your infrastructure. Some people can't stand this, and we're not good computer people for them. But for the people who like this, they get a lot out of it. It's really empowering. It means that most people who in the office learn more. I've been at a show, like at a play, and an office manager will rush up to me and said, "You helped me 10 years ago, and now I'm the computer maven in my office," and I'm so proud of that when that happens.
Adam, you and I have the same business model.
Yes, Charisse and I very much have the same approach. I think that you'll see as I talk about this particular subject that we're talking about tonight, two subjects, you'll see how this approach gets woven into the kind of decisions we make about which tools we use. So the reason why we're opening a discussion about Cryptolocker is because it's a very important issue, and I wanted to make sure that everybody in this room, particularly people who are helping other people with their computers, are aware of the danger and aware of some of the things that they can do to prevent it. So for people who haven't heard about this, Cryptolocker is a confluence, a connection of two modern technologies that until now have not existed together. One of them is excellent encryption that's available on an open source basis. And the second is an anonymous way to pay people for something. So it's these two things combined together that have created this Frankenstein's monster. Bitcoins, which are one example of, and the most popular example of anonymous currency, is a very clever distributed system that allows basically a tracking of a monetary value, but it allows you, when you pay, there's no way to trace who made the payment, where the money came from. This is an invitation to crime, and people have very eagerly taken this invitation. So what the Cryptolocker virus and its many variants does is it gets on your machine, it starts encrypting your files. As soon as it's made significant progress, it puts up a banner saying, "Hello, we've encrypted your files, you're toast, you pay us, or your files will be destroyed in 3 days. And the way you're going to pay us is you're going to go to a Bitcoin distributor, give them money, and then they're going to send us this Bitcoin information. And then we'll get your money." So this has happened a million times in the United States in the past year or two. At least two Massachusetts police stations have paid the ransom in order to... Topsfield, I think, is the other one. Apparently large hospitals, banks, other large institutions have been attacked in this way. So what does this do and what has happened? The way I'm going to tell you is to just describe to you what happened to my customer last week. So I get a call from my customer, and she says, "I'm trying to get into my password list." All my customers have password lists. We'll talk about that some other time. And I can't get in. And when I look at the data file for the password list...
Oh God, the extension changed, right?
You got it, Catherine.
Oh my God, yeah, I saw that at work a couple of weeks ago, but I couldn't do anything.
It happened at Partners?
Yes, some guy calls in and he's like, "Oh my God, I see all these files, this extension, it's like .locky, what the hell is this?" And I'm like, you need to shut that off right now, and I am sending a tech down there stat, because you could potentially be that could potentially run through the entire department.
Yep.
And the guy just was like, the guy was basically like, oh, crap.
Yeah, that's the right word. That's basically the word that comes out in this situation. So the extension looked like this. So the password file was named password.kdbx. That's a standard ending for KeyPass.
Yep.
Okay. And now it looks like this. And it's completely toast. No, opening it doesn't do anything. The icon disappears, turns white. So this happened to, I got a look at the computer, it's 16 gigs of data. And
Oh my God.
so what I want to describe is what I went through in just dealing with this crisis, partly because if this happens to you, and it can, want to make some suggestions. And also I really welcome, very often, in fact, every time I give a presentation about anything I do, somebody will say, why didn't you do such and such? And I say, you're right, you're right. So don't be shy. The first thing I did was try to understand what I said, this is clearly Cryptolocker, that's what's going on. The first thing was to buy, it's a small office, about 4 or 5 computers. The first thing, it became pretty clear because the banner was on on Rick's computer. So it seemed pretty clear that that's where the infection was. So the first thing we did was I said unplug the network cable, because this file that was encrypted was not on Rick's computer. It was on the network. We have a shared network drive. That meant that the Cryptolocker virus was reaching into the share. I thought it was pretty smart. Like, instead of going for his documents directory, which turned out it did too, it also went into the shared folder.
It does. It takes them A to Z, if I'm not mistaken.
You know, somebody downloaded it, or it was a drive-by, which is the newest vector.
It could have been on a website that had been affected. We really don't know what the origin was. But the important thing was, it seemed to be on his machine and not on others. There was no evidence of this virus being on another machine. So we unplugged him. And then the next thing I did is I went in and turned off the network share. So in Windows, you would go right-click on the file and go to sharing and say nobody. We don't want anybody. So I did that on the file server. Part of this story, because we're going to get into this in the next part of the talk, is I was in Roslindale, there in downtown Boston. I was using LogMeIn. So I logged me into the file server, looked at what was going on, saw these files were damaged, but immediately locked the share so that if it was on some other machine, at least it wouldn't continue. From Rick's machine at least, and from the other machines. Then I had Rick run Malwarebytes. This is my tool of choice when I'm just trying to figure out what's going on. Malwarebytes is a good, solid, one thing I like about it is it's conservative, meaning almost all other programs that I know of, when you do a scan with them, they say, oh my God, you've got a cookie, oh my God, you've got this invasive autoimmune system, whatever it is. None of these things are really important. There's some cookies and tracking cookies. What I like about Malwarebytes is it distinguishes between the important and the not important. If Malwarebytes says it's found something, you should be concerned. I've never known it to find something that was stupid, or very rarely. And the stuff it finds really matters. So I find it so helpful. The best way to get Malwarebytes is to get it from ninenight.com.
Although it's kind of not free anymore, isn't it?
It is free.
It's still free.
Yeah, the basic one is free. If you want real-time scanning, you need to pay. But to be able to just do a Malwarebyte scan, it's a free program. Yeah.
On the Cryptolocker, everything is encrypted from any drive that is attached to the computer. I had one of the machines that was attacked, one of my clients, I was doing backups every night onto an external hard drive, so if the computer hard drive failed, we had an image of all the documents and other files. Went out and it encrypted everything on the attached hard drive as well.
May I ask how large the backup files were?
I don't know, total?
Meaning, if it was, the backup system we used was Acronis, and one of the things that bought us some time in this situation is the Acronis file is 100 gigs.
Oh, no, it's just doing a mirror image of the individual documents.
So why don't we just dig right in? So we're talking about prevention.
mirror image of the documents, which is just a backup, or mirror image of the drive?
Mirror image of the drive. So basically, you have the same stuff, right? The same folders and same files on the external drive. So
And that's protecting against something that was the whole time, the hard drive fails, can't
Right.
get to the documents, there's a copy of all the documents.
so one of the
But
first.
Cryptolocker, that's useless.
Yes, because Cryptolocker just went and nailed it. So we're going to talk about all kinds of ways, and you're suggesting an additional way of reducing the damage this virus does. And just to tell me your name again.
Arthur?
Thank you, Arthur. So what Arthur is teaching us is that on the external drive, it really makes sense to use a program like Acronis because you're going to have this huge, hefty backup file, which is going to be 50 gigs, 60 gigs. At least it's going to slow these bad guys down. They can't encrypt that file suddenly.
You guys should also have Azure backup vaults or something like that. I need to do
That's
that
cloud
myself,
backup, right?
actually. Yeah.
Yeah. So
That's the, we'll get.
Well, cloud is a problem.
well, here's the thing. I think in thinking about prevention, there's lots of different layers that we can add here. Very few of them are bad. Most of them are going to be helpful. So let's again, we're getting back to the scene. We start running malwarebytes on RICS. It quickly finds a very suspicious-looking crypto named like Trojan. Meanwhile, as that's happening, I'm scratching my head and saying, okay, I've got this interesting situation. Here's the situation. I've got 90 gigabytes. Sorry, I lost my beautiful 24 point here. 90 gigabytes of data on this data drive. Now, remember that computer helpers do not exist in some sort of magic fantasy world where everyone simply says, you have all the time, all the money you want, do what you need to do. Now, this customer is almost as close as that's going to be. They're wonderful people. I love working with them. But Rick has a family. He had to go home. It was like 6 o'clock at night when he called me.
Oh no.
And so part of my job in this situation is to try to get some kind of resolution. And because he wasn't going to be in the next morning, and he was basically the person running the company over that week, I had to figure out how do I get this guy out the door and have him feel safe and comfortable getting out the door. So that was an important. You're going to bear that in mind as we're thinking about that. Arthur says it can't be done. Okay, so what we had 90 gigs of data on the data drive, but I thought maybe it didn't get to all of them. Maybe it didn't do all the files. How many files did it encrypt? Well, fortunately, so far, this program's still kind of dumb. It uses the same extension in all the encrypted files. Okay?
.lck.
What's that?
.lck.
In this case, it was cryptid. Cryptid. So I got to use one of my favorite tools. This is called Agent Ransack. This is a really wonderful program.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Windows has a search facility, as you probably know, and you probably know that it's pretty stinky.
Yeah.
The Windows search
What
facility.
Windows 7 is anyway.
I just find all of them.
Windows
I've
10
never
is
found
really
one.
good.
I've never found one that I like. So.
The XP was decent.
If you go to MythicSoft, this program is free, although if you use it for commercial purposes, they request that you register it for free with them. Their great program is Agent Ransack. This is the freeware light version, which is enough for almost anything. Calling this a light version is a charming understatement. It's a really great program. So with Agent Ransack, what I did was I said, okay, Agent Ransack, find me all the files in this data folder that end in .cryptid. So it did that, and it gives the list in a beautiful list, regardless of what folder it's in, and gave me the ability, if I wish, to delete them all or do something with them. So I have this now. I have a list, and I know how big it is. It's 16 gigabytes. That's how far they at least they recognized that something bad was happening, and they called me fast enough so that we were able to interrupt it before it did all of its work. We'll talk more about the speed of Cryptolocker in a bit. So now I knew at least what I was dealing with. And I thought, well, 16 gigabytes, I can do something and maybe get Rick home with 90 gigabytes, forget it. But 16 gigabytes, maybe I can do something about that. So here's the puzzle, and I want to leave this as an exercise for a moment for people to think about. Here's your situation. You've got this 90 gigabyte data drive with a whole bunch of data. Here are your tools. The 90 gigabytes of data. 16 gigabytes has been damaged. You know which ones they are. You can find them with Agent Ransack. You've got an Acronis backup. So we use Acronis backup at this company and at most of my customers because we find it quite reliable in most cases.
I wonder if they fixed the huge accessibility glitch with that, where it like doesn't work at all.
I don't know, Catherine. We should keep at it. They're
Yeah,
not
but
the most responsive company in the world. They're very weird.
Maybe at the
actually.
clinic.
Yeah, maybe we can get after them.
They're in Woburn.
They seem to be in Woburn. They're actually in Leningrad. I've got to tell you this story. So I was at a customer once, and I was talking to technical support, and the guy's in Leningrad, and so now St. Petersburg. So the guy, somewhere in the midst of this conversation, he made some kind of mistake, and he said, "Oh, Adam, my bad." And so this conversation went on for a while, and at the end of the conversation, I said, "Vladimir, please excuse me. I know that you're in St. Petersburg and that English is not your native language, and I apologize, but I really have to point out that my bad is not good English." He said, "Adam, do you have a copy of the American Slang Dictionary with you?"
Yeah, he's using slang.
I'd never heard the expression. The first time I heard the expression "my bad" was from
I
Vladimir
hear it
in
on
St.
TV
Petersburg.
all the
That's funny.
time.
I just don't watch enough TV. That's my problem.
I'm very bad. Like when I'm on a service desk call, like if I make a mistake, like depending on how patient the user is, I'll be like, "Oh, oops, I'm sorry, that was my bad. Let's try that again." And usually they chuckle.
I'm glad they chuckle. So we had an Acronis backup. For people who haven't used it, I really recommend you check out this program. It is an imaging program. And I started to sleep better when I started putting this on customer machines, because what it does is it takes a photograph of the entire computer, basically, and puts it on an external hard drive in one big encrypted file. It's pretty reliable. The ability to get stuff back at high speeds is extraordinary. And I've restored full computers with a home user who didn't know anything about computers over the telephone using Acronis. It's a really impressive program.
I should also add you can do a file-by-file backup too.
Yes, it has many capabilities. I focus on the imaging one, and in this case, we had images of the data folder of this. We do backups every night. We had an image from 1 a.m. of this entire machine, of the file server. So we had this available, and yes, Barton.
One really important thing is if you are desperate for certain files there, you certainly don't have to blow the whole thing back to a disk.
Right.
It has a utility part of it that you mount it as a virtual disk. So it opens the TIB file and you can just use it. They'll give it a drive letter that's otherwise unassigned. And you can go pick files out of it. But more than that, it's smart and wise-ass enough to let you write to that file, that virtual file, which is like, wow.
So-
Yes,
Smart,
kind of like
sneaky
native Windows VA.
So what Barton's saying is both true and not true, and I want to explain. Barton's absolutely nailing the correct way to solve the problem that we have. So the problem we have is how do we get the 16 gigabytes that needs to be replaced, but not do the 90? In its native mode, if you just double-click on an Acronis backup, one great strength this backup has is, I don't have one here, but I'll just give you a picture, kind of a picture in your mind about it. If you go to an external hard drive with Acronis on it, in fact, I'm going to, I'll demonstrate this later. The important thing to realize is that this mounting technique basically gives you full access to the backup as if it were a drive. The bad news is sometimes it fails. The mounting technique is not entirely reliable. It's a part of the Acronis software that sometimes I have found just doesn't work.
Oh,
So in this situation, it didn't work, and I was really mad. But it turned out that by monkeying with it and doing it a couple times and turning off drives and turning it on, I got it to work. So now what I have is I have a drive. You can think of it just as any drive with all 90 gigs available, in the undamaged from the backup. All right, here's the puzzle. You've got 90 gigs of data, and you've got on the hard drive, 16 gigs of them are bad and the rest of them are good. You only want to replace the bad ones, right? Because you only want to do 16 gigs of copying. You don't want to keep Rick here all night. Bad for public relations. So, how? What do you think? Steve?
Copy all the files that have a different extension than the backup.
Or copy them by.
Copy. So you're saying go to the
For every
backup.
For every file in the 62 gig, 90 gig,
Yeah.
take a look at the corresponding file in the backup. If the extension is different, copy for the backup.
And how do I do that in practice so that I actually get it done? Like,
The software you just showed.
Agent Ransack could, you're saying, search through. Agent Ransack was able to find the bad files because it looked for cryptid. How do I find the good? How do I know which are the good files and which ones to copy over onto the original
You're
drive?
dealing with DocX, you're dealing with
Oh,
Doc, you're
yeah,
dealing
tons
with
of extensions, yeah.
XLS,
Yeah.
you're dealing with XLST, you're dealing with JPEG, you're dealing with PDF.
Take time.
Any ideas?
Well, you could run, if you knew how, you could construct a PowerShell script, like, so that if you input a file name, you could put in it would shoot a folder back out at you. But again, that's probably a harder one. That might take a bit to do that, but that's one way to do it.
Okay.
Or if Ransack is clever enough, can't it tell you what folder it's in by like right-clicking on it, and then you can just.
Yeah, but it's 16 gigs of data. We're talking serious
If
data.
you're doing a bulk file copy, we would copy all the files that do not have the same name and then come at the end and say, do you want to replace the rest of the files?
I think you're getting warmer. Yes. Now, what tool? What tool though?
So copy all newer files.
All newer files, but
Newer or non-existent files.
newer.
Delete the cryptids.
No.
Wait, tell me again, Steve. I'm not following that.
On the left hand, you have your backup. It contains a whole bunch of files as of midnight last night.
Correct.
On the right hand, you have the files that you're using. It consists of files that haven't changed since before midnight, files that have changed during the day, and files that have been marked as cryptic.
Yep.
So what you do is you copy from the external disk, from the backup, copy all files over that have that either don't exist or have a newer date. So you'll get the files that don't exist will be the ones that are cryptic. The ones that have a newer date are the ones that were changed today. At that point, you will have on your destination all of the files and all of the backup for all of the files that have not been encrypted and the encrypted files.
Do people? Does that make sense?
No.
Made sense to me.
You're a software developer. You have your own language.
Oh, it's still a song.
On your backup, you have a whole bunch of files that have been backed up.
All right, so let's draw a picture. Let's get a picture. So we're gonna do a picture. So,
Over here, we have all the files in the backup. DocX, Doc, PDF, da-da-da-da-da. All of your files. Over here is your hard disk. And it contains all of your files. Some of them have changed since last night, some of them have not changed since last night. And some of them have been munged and are now called cryptid. So when you take a look at these two directories, you see a lot of matches because you have a lot of the files here that haven't been touched over here. You'll see a lot of matches, but the dates are newer over here because the files were changed during the day and they haven't been marked cryptid.
wait, that's the part I'm not following.
Okay, so you have three files, A, B, and C.
Yeah.
Okay? A hasn't changed in a month. B was changed today. C was marked cryptid.
Okay.
On the backup, you have A, B, and C. A hasn't changed in a month, so you won't copy it. B, oh, the date's different. It's the same file, the date's different, so I will copy it. Now on your disk you have the most recent ones as of today. But you also have C.cryptid. Over here you have C without the cryptid, you copy it over. So now what you have is the marriage of all the files that haven't changed since before the backup last night, all the files that had changed since the backup, all the files that are in the backup that are marked cryptid over here, and the files that are marked cryptid. You get rid of all the cryptids, and you are back up as close to your backup last night and the changes today that were preserved.
So one of my questions, Steve, is what tool would we do this with? How would we get the files from the backup into the hard disk?
Xcopy.
What
You just tell it only copy files that don't exist or that are newer.
does Xcopy have that ability?
Yes, there's a parameter in that. I believe.
Or you can be a little bit more modern and you can use copy dash item, and then shoot.
Inside PowerShell.
PowerShell. Yeah, although I can't remember the dang parameter to save my life because I haven't had to use it in a while.
Space question mark.
Which one did you use, Adam?
So,
We have.
yeah, question, pardon?
Is there, this, I'm gonna make a little past suggestion, and someone may know better than I do, but you can obviously sort by extension assuming that you're mostly in a few individual folders. You sort by extension in that folder, and you can click, beginning and end and shift and get all the files with the trash, whatever the encrypted, file name highlighted, and then you can just cut and paste those. Just it's a move on the same disk.
Wait, so you'd have on the left-hand side a window with the cryptid ones, and on the right-hand side a window with
You
the...
want to get those out of the folder that you want to fix.
I can get them out, because
You don't want to
Agent Ransack can get them out.
Shot the whole folder.
The problem is how, so I get what you're saying, so, Barton, go ahead.
There's a thing called TerraCopy, and it may sound crazy because everything copied from disk to disk is reliable, which is, it turns out to not always be true. TerraCopy does a checksum of every file it copies, and then it goes back and makes sure that the copied file is right. And
That's awesome.
damnation, especially going to even high-quality USB 3 hubs and things, sometimes the file that's copied is not good, and you can get it to go and fix the ones that copied wrong. And not, the whole world of hard drives is not as perfect as you'd like it to be.
But Barton, I think you're digging too deep there. I think you're digging too deep. We've got to get this guy home. We've got to get
Set
this
it
guy
to
home.
replace the ones that are missing in the folder and not touch ones that are already there.
Since it's.
Okay, so
only
wait, the
16
steps that Barton's hold on, let's stay with Barton's suggestion. So Barton is suggesting delete the cryptid files,
Correct. So they're physically not there in that folder.
get rid of them. Then, delete the cryptid files, then use a tool that only copies over files that are not there.
Well, yes, the ping pong switches, but yes.
Okay? So, yeah, tell me your name.
Me? Matthew.
Again?
Matthew.
Matthew, yes.
I'm sorry, I was going to follow him.
Go ahead, yeah.
I don't think you have time to find a tool. If you have a tool, great. If you don't, deleting all encrypted files works. Copy up all the files that remain that were modified today. Copy everything from the backup and don't replace. And don't replace anything that exists. Then copy back the files that were modified today and replace. And then save a list of those files that were copied back for user reference so they know which files they actually got back that were in use today and which ones that they lost to the backup. So 5 steps. I mean, this is in lieu of actually having a tool.
Yeah, with a PowerShell script, you could do it in one if you could type fast enough.
So, I want to answer Arthur, you asked what I did. So, I think very much in the same river that everyone here is walking in here. The way I thought about it is I said, here's what I want to do. I want to get, to go to this backup drive, and I want to copy over all the files, but I want to skip files that are there already, except I want to skip files that are there already. So let's think about that for a second. If you copy from the backup drive and skip files that are there already, it won't replace any uninfected files. But it will replace the infected file. It will copy over files that have the same name as the infected files because the name is different.
Windows Copy will do that.
But
When it finds a duplicate, it says, do you want to
Yeah,
write
but
this.
I don't want to sit there.
Do you want to do this for every file?
Yeah, you're right, you're
Well,
right.
no.
But Windows, the problem with Windows Copy is, first of all, my experience with Windows copies is that often if it hits something weird, it just bombs out and doesn't tell you how far it's gotten. I just don't find it a very reliable
Yeah,
tool.
me too. I've
Um,
seen that before. too.
So, thank you. I realized what I needed was a tool that would do this. It would copy over from the backup drive and not bother with something that's already there. And does everyone agree that that would do the trick?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, Bart.
There's a serious problem. There's readily available tools to let you go change any of the 3 file names to anything you want in the entire folder or under whatever things you want. If these bastards are savvy enough, they would leave the file name the same and change it anyway. They can mess
I
with-
agree. And so
mess with
so
file
let's
names, but that's
enjoy
not
their ignorance
necessarily
while we
necessary.
have it. Let's learn prevention techniques, because you're right. These guys are amateurs still. They haven't gotten really smart. We'll talk more about how they are going to get smart, and we're going to have to be really smart to stop them. These guys are just beginners. They are, as Abraham Lincoln said about the South, they are green and we are green. Okay? Let's try to. So in this situation, fortunately, they left a hot trail that we can use. So then I'm sitting here. It's 6 o'clock at night. I've got to get my customer out the door, and I did not know how to do this. So I decided to search for it. So here I am, and I'll show you the search I did.
At least they were patient and waited for you. I have that all the time where I get people, it's like, oh, well, I don't know this off the top of my head. Hold on 1 second, I'll get something. And they just they're just very ungrateful. That's all.
Catherine's making a point.
You're lucky.
I want to add. I want to say this is not a minor issue. The attitude of the customer in this situation can make a huge difference to success.
Yep.
The fact that these people said, "We trust you. We know that you're going to help us. We'll help you any way we can." That attitude made my life so much easier and made my heart so much lighter that dealing with this crisis was really doable. If these people had been jumping down my throat or saying, "Why didn't you do this? This is your fault," it would have scrambled my brains and it would have been very hard to think clearly. Okay, so remember that when you're the customer. Let's all remember that. Okay, so here I am. I'm here. I've got a Google search engine available. So what you want a way of copying stuff, but skipping stuff that's already there. What Google search term should we use?
State the question again, please.
I need a tool that will copy from the backup into the server directory, into the server shared drive, but not bother to copy something that's already there. If there's a file already there in a particular folder and it's in the backup, it won't copy it. That way, I know that it will only copy over files that have been damaged. Yeah.
Beyond compare.
So, without even doing a search, I did the Eisenberg search, and there is a program called Beyond Compare that one of my customers, who's a programmer, swears by. He uses this to open up his canned food. I mean, this is just this is constantly.
Hey, you don't have to figure.
So I
This is for savvy guys
believe.
for computers.
So this may be a good tool. It's old. It's very well respected. This may be a good tool, and so I'm just going to put it up here so people can see it. One piece of advice I give myself in situations like this is, please don't try anything new. It's 6 o'clock at night. What if it turns out this isn't the right tool? I don't know how to use it. Try to use something you already know. It's even better to use something that's not so great, but at least you understand it. So that was my situation. I needed to use something that I sort of knew my way around. I don't know Beyond Compare well enough. I'm dealing with this very sensitive data. It's a scary situation. So good, really good suggestion, and I urge people to learn about it. And I certainly want to learn more about it. Let me ask the question again. What Google search should I do to find a way of doing this? Yeah.
Delta copy? I just thought of that as a very.
Delta copy, Windows, right?
Called that.
Windows. Okay.
You want to copy only files that don't exist?
Don't exist in the target. Yeah,
Okay, that's the search.
I like that. So copy only files not in the target.
Under R6.
Okay, Linux, is Richard Miller here?
No.
Okay. So we're going to have to skip this one. Sorry, Richard. Okay, so this is have X copy a file and don't override if the previous one exists. That's not quite it, is it?
But there's options on extra copy.
Let's see what they say.
It's not direct.
How about the next one? That's not gonna be only.
Okay, yeah, well, let's go back. Sorry, it's thinking.
So can I ask a question?
Yeah.
How do you know that the virus has been completely eradicated from your drive? Because if it remains, whatever you're gonna do, you have a strong possibility to have it infected again. So what makes you say that you know exactly the source of the Cryptolocker?
A really good question. Let's address that before we go back to our search, because
And I was gonna
it's
talk
an
about
earlier question. Barton?
I was going to talk about that because
Wh-
there's some.
Sharice first and then Barton, yeah.
You're concerned about.
Wait, Barton, hold on a second. Sharice.
Because there's an attitude that once this gets into the drive, even though you've deleted the executable, the drive is still compromised. It should be dumped and reloaded.
All right, so let's stop right there. Not going to happen in this customer situation, okay? Yes, at Genzyme, we do that, but this is, this customer cannot afford it, probably. I do want to, Sharice, I don't mean to dismiss your concern,
I know.
but I think we have to find a
I'm
balance.
I'm still leery about that myself. If the executable
Let-
has been neutralized,
Well, let's talk about this. Yeah, Barton.
Just so that it's safe to screw around with different things you haven't played with yet, unless this is some insanely multi-terabyte thing, if it's just a few hundred gig, copy the directories you're gonna be messing with, just make clean copies, possibly to an external other drive, or even to the same drive, and then you can take a copy of that, or the original one, doesn't matter, and screw with it, because you can always get back to where you started if the tool's wrong.
I want to tell you that you're right, but there wasn't time to do that.
That's
So
what- I mean,
you're totally right.
If it's
And
100 gig size range, that's
look,
fast.
I mean, the fact is that you have to cut corners in these situations. You can't do everything by the book. I had to get this guy out of the building. It was really important. So the answer to Mark's really important question is, it seemed to me, since people have been working on the other machines all day, and because I know the people in this office, they're alert, smart people, if there had been an infection on the other machine, it probably would have showed up and I would have heard about it. So that was one piece of data. The second piece of data is that it seemed to be clearly on this guy's machine because he was getting the ransom note. So we know it was on his machine. It could have been on the other ones. I shut off the file share. The other machines could not access this machine and could not continue to infect it. So the only possibility is the file server infected with this executable? Well, the only way this file server is exposed to the other machines in the office is through a shared folder. There's no program that can jump from a machine, other machines to this machine. There's no shared executable. This is just a file sharing machine. There's no client
Right,
server or
and-
anything like that.
And plus, ransomwares aren't file infectors either. The only way it would jump is if it were like an actual file infector, where the actual, because like ransomwares technically aren't viral, so to speak. People love to say virus, and it drives me nuts, but it's not technically a virus.
That's a really good point. It's a malware.
Right.
So it's not a particularly spreading disease. So I think the answer to the larger question
Those
is,
have kind of
from what we know about ransomware, and knowing your enemy is important in a situation like this. I knew something about it. I'd heard about these infections. I've read about it. It's not a jumping kind of thing. It's not like this thing runs from machine to machine and infects all the machines. That's, at least so far, that hasn't been really what it's done. What it's done is it gets on one machine and then attacks the data. That's its goal. There was a risk, but I think the risk was greatly reduced by unplugging the infected machine, cutting off the network share, and then running malware bytes on the file server, which I went ahead and did. And that also is a way of reducing the risk. Would it reduce the risk completely so there'd be no question? No. There's absolutely going to be a balance there. Yeah. So, okay. So, I think that people are saying there's no way not to overwrite, as far as I know, but /yes will make it overwrite, and it will get rid of the file prompt. So what I would conclude from this is Xcopy is not strong enough medicine for this. Xcopy is this wonderful program that copies file trees, but it does not know how to look at the file tree it's copying to and make intelligent decisions. Xcopy just isn't smart enough to do that. By the way, I love Xcopy. It's like the best DOS command ever, but we need stronger medicine. So I kept searching, and so I've got this copy, and then I came across someone pointing out that Robocopy comes with Windows. It's a souped up version of Xcopy.
Wait, RoboCopy comes with Windows? I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's built in.
Wow.
Is it possible to use Robocopy to copy only files that do not exist in the destination? Robocopy has a /is, includes same files. What I'm looking for is an XS switch. Okay? So he says, do this. And this is the answer. Robocopy /xc /xn /xo. Source destination. This worked. So basically it was really wonderful to watch. What ended up happening is it started copying the files over, and when it found the one that was sort of like the other one, it said, something funny is going on here. I don't even remember the word it used, but it said extra or something like this. It knew exactly what I was doing. It realized that I was copying over. There was a file that was sort of like the one I was copying, but it wasn't the same one. And so it replaced the ones which had crypted after it, but did not replace any other files. And it did it in a short amount of time.
Can you repeat that slowly or highlight it and make it bigger?
I'm going to make it bigger.
Or whatever.
You said it replaced the crypto files?
No,
Okay.
sorry, thanks for
It added
correcting
them
me.
to the directory.
It added them to the directory, the corrected files, left the crypto files alone.
Thank you.
Yeah, and actually did some kind of notation saying extra, so it knew what was going on. It had some understanding of what was going on, and it had, I don't know what this guy's talking about timestamp. This absolutely worked. I want to make sure I'm giving you the right. Yeah, and by the way, look, Steve, this is for you.
What is it?
Beyond, someone said use can beyond compare. Right
Oh.
there.
I
Yeah.
can let me tell you a little bit about that.
Yes, please.
Okay. I use it to synchronize files between place A and place B. I do a beyond compare, and I go to my directory and I do a right click and I say treat this as a left directory for compare, and I go to another directory, right click, and I compare the two directories. And then it shows me all the files that are in both directories, or I click a button, it shows me the files that are in one and not in the other, or the files that are in one and are newer or older than the ones in the other. And then I can select which ones to have copy across and synchronize the two directories.
Do you
And
use
it's-
this for back and
Say what?
Do you use this tool for backups?
Yes, I do. I have I want to synchronize between my USB and my hard drive. It works that. I want to copy files between my primary disk and my backup disk. I only want to take the changed ones. I go in and, a star, see all of them. I don't want that. Click off the star and just do not equals, and it shows me the ones that are not the same.
How long does it take to do a backup?
Well, it
Say
depends
5
what you
gig?
got. It's a file, it's a very fast file copy. It's a good way to select the files you want to copy. If they're big files, small files, it'll take more time or less time. It's also used for that when you have two files that are the same name, but the files differ. You can see the differences on a line-by-line basis between those files and selectively copy the changes across. And there's more. There's more I haven't used.
But wait,
Oh,
there's
dang,
more.
that is cool.
If you buy tonight, we'll throw in another one free.
So this is definitely a situation where you use the tools you know. It sounds like this might have been also worked just as well. The files got replaced. Then I went into Agent Ransack and said, Agent Ransack, show me those crypted files again. Showed me the 16 gigs, and I highlighted them and deleted them. Now I'm back to normal. The backup's restored, and I say, Rick, you can go home. Now, here's the question. This is what I call a dramaturgy question. So for those of you who are not theater people, dramaturgy is like the art of figuring out how to please the audience with your theater. So the fact is, being a computer helper is partly theater. Your session with a customer has to have a beginning, a middle, and end. You have to resolve the conflict in some way, and you have to accept reality. The reality is that telling Rick to go home does not mean everything was all better. But it was really important to know when to stop. So I could have said, oh, wait a minute, I bet this infected Rick's desktop and his document folder too. But here's the thing, I know this office, and I know it's the data folder that really matters. He's not even supposed to be putting stuff in his documents folder. And if he's doing it, he gets what he deserves. I'm teasing a little bit. But the important thing is, it's not as
Work
important.
folders, guys, redirect your My Documents folder. I
Thank
need
you.
to do the same thing at my house, like, that's this weekend's task.
Exactly. But here's the thing. It's really important that I did not do that. And I'm really grateful that I did not do that. What I did was I said, go home. We got it. It's working. And of course, I got a call the next day from him saying, I can't, the files on my desktop aren't working. What's the matter? And so I looked into it. Of course, the files on the desktop were encrypted, were damaged. And here's where the punishment, he got the punishment that the crime deserved. He, against everybody's advice for years, please, Rick, don't put stuff in your desktop. Don't put stuff in your documents directory. Put it on the network share where we back it up every night. We only back up your computer once a month. As it happened, we had done a backup 2 weeks before. We had all his files. I restored the ones that he hadn't changed, and he's stuck. Those 2 weeks is his problem because he didn't follow our instructions. And there's nothing I can do about it. They're gone. Cryptolocker is impregnable, dangerous, awful.
Now,
There are, let me just finish. There are some antidotes to Cryptolocker. You can go online, and the federal government brought down some of these servers and got some of the crypto keys and made them available. There's some company that distributes them. You can sometimes go and download that and test it on one of your files and see if you've got the right key. That if he really was feeling horrible, I might do that. What I will not do is pay the ransom because I think it should be illegal to do so, and I just
It
find
is technically illegal.
It's actually not.
It isn't?
No, it's actually not illegal. I don't understand why it isn't.
What's
Police
not
departments are
illegal?
doing it. I mean, it can't be illegal. Yeah, Arthur.
True.
I had one client pay $1,800.
oh my God.
The only backup was on his external drive.
Yeah.
We were protected against something else.
Yeah,
It took 3 weeks to figure out how to buy Bitcoin,
Yeah, it's just awful.
set up products and things.
You can
And
mine
now
them
he's
if
in
you
the
have
cloud. It's,
computers powerful enough.
The next, but, and they were honest about sending it.
yeah. These guys have customer service websites. They're charming.
And
These
I watched
people are
it
charming.
for 2 hours as it removed the encryption file by file, and I sat there and I watched the whole thing.
Amazing.
But unfortunately, some of them are like, got the money, see you later.
I've never heard that yet, but I'm sure that's true. Taylor.
Tyler.
Tyler, thank you.
It's alright, it's no problem. But I have a question, and I asked in the beginning of the class, I really want to know this. I don't think it's kind of what talking about. How do I copyright?
Say again.
How do I copyright? Like, how would I copyright something if I was to post it on the internet?
Oh, I'm trying to figure out how that weaves in. I'll answer
Well,
your
there's
question.
any number of ways you can
I'm
do
gonna answer your
that.
question, and then we'll talk more about it. It's a wonderful issue. I love the copyright law. Do you know how you copyright something? Grab a
No,
piece
I'm
of
just trying to
paper.
figure
Grab
it
a
out.
piece of paper.
Alright,
Yeah. Write something down.
alright.
You're
There's
done.
a number of ways you can do it.
You're done.
Wait, he's not done.
You under
Write
the
something down.
yeah. Good. Write something down.
I gotta write it written down. Okay.
What you just wrote, it's copyrighted.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah.
So if I just post it, it's just automatic.
The posting, the registering, all that stuff is to provide some legal protection later in court. But the law says when you put a pen to paper and you write something, it's yours and it's copyrighted.
It's
If you
creating it
want-
to a permanent medium.
If you
Yes,
want
like paper.
quick and dirty protection, print it out, put it in an envelope, seal the envelope, put a stamp on it, on the flap, take it to the post office, have them cancel it. That way, it proves that you wrote this first on that date.
I'm not sure that holds up in court.
Yeah.
Well, actually, we had a guy here, and it was videotaped. If you go to the BNUG website, bnug.org, there's a gentleman who's an expert at self-publishing, and he gave a great talk. I thought it was wonderful. If you go to
But the important thing to understand is that as soon as you commit.
Tyler, were you talking about software?
It's
Software. Yeah, if you, I'm just gonna make a little plug for the website here. This is really quite wonderful. If you go to the past meetings link, you'll see the past meetings, and notice that there's you can watch the video presentation for each one. So the one on publishing is called "Building a Book from Idea to Shelf." I think a lot of what he talked about actually does apply to software as well. But definitely there's a great deal to be learned. It's not my.
People need to
Evie,
self-publish,
Is
seriously.
there a way, some company will, you can register this so that, for the software company?
I think that Randall actually talked about that. He said that he actually made a couple of specific websites where you can upload text.
Then that would be the best one to.
Yeah, he would be a good person as one person to talk to. His stuff is more about text and less about software. The laws about software are complex because software isn't just text; it's also a machine in a sense. So software can sometimes be patented. Yeah, there's lots of issues. There's lots of issues. All right, so we went back, did more Malwarebytes scans of the machines. Now, let's spend the rest of the time talking about prevention because I think that's really the core issue.
I'm glad you brought that up.
Okay, Sharice, you want to dive into that one?
Yeah, because now, for example, I use Komodo Firewall on all my systems and all my clients. One of the things Komodo does is they have their own DNS. And their DNS monitors for sites that have been infected. And if it detects an infected site, it won't let you go to it until they fix it.
Okay, and has that protected you? Have you seen that?
Yeah, it comes up occasionally. It doesn't come up too often, but it has come up occasionally. And it really, really doesn't like me going to a site that it perceives to be infected. And it's usually not something that's important. It's usually some secondary site somebody told me is interesting. And I've never had a problem with, say, Amazon, Microsoft, any of the big boys. The second thing is I went to a NASIG meeting last spring, and the presenter talked about how ransomware hackers, they now do drive-bys looking for open idle shockwave flash ports. If the port is in use, it doesn't piggyback on the stream, but it looks for open.
Jump to prevention. What can we do about that?
So what you do is you disable the ports. If you can turn it to manual.
What ports? Which ports?
The shockwave port, you go into.
So if you disable shockwave port, does that mean you can't use shockwave?
No, you go into the browser.
I'm in the browser.
Look for the shockwave add-on.
Yeah.
Now, i.e., you disable it. There's no way you can control it. It's either on or off.
Yeah.
But Firefox, you can disable it and ask me if I need to use it. So if you go to a site that wants to use the shockwave,
Yeah.
you get a banner that says this site wants to use shockwave. You want to allow it.
Do a lot of sites use shockwave?
A lot of them do. It's supposed to be going out of style, but a lot of sites are still using it.
Yeah, this would drive me crazy.
So I get a banner that says this site wants to use shockwave. Do you want to allow it? I click on yes. Do you want to allow it for this session only or forever and ever? I tell it this session only. And then I get the stream, and once I leave the session, then it resets.
So I'll include that. Shockwave by invitation only.
That's right.
Look, there's tons of ways things we can do. People, please speak up as we go. The ones that you see on this list are the ones that we have in our security guide. If you go to computercareandlearning.com, there's a security guide which walks you through this.
There's also supposed to
Hold
be
on, Sharice, please. So the computer care and safety guide will walk you through the backup suggestions and a list of malware tools. So I hope people find that helpful. This list that you see here, I think, is a good, solid list of pretty much free programs that we certainly recommend that will reduce your risk. This company was doing all of these. It did not prevent this from happening.
Well,
So,
yeah, you had a user that went, frankly stupid.
no, that's not fair, Charisse. The user did not do anything stupid.
Well,
We don't- we
the
don't-
only way it gets in typically.
Charisse, no, it's not fair. We don't know how it got in. You don't know how it got in. And saying he's stupid is foolish. You don't even know him. You don't know what he did. And I actually do know this user, and stupid is not something to describe this person.
Okay.
He's a serious worker, he was doing his job, and something happened. There was some kind of event.
90% of the time, it's usually clicking on a link.
So maybe he clicked on a link that looked like a legitimate link. That's not stupid.
Yeah,
That's-
Well,
maybe
that's
it
how
was.
most of them have gotten
Yeah.
in. Wow.
But Charisse, I'm just saying, it's really important not to classify this as stupidity. It's important. We're in an environment where you're trying to do your job, and this stuff happens. All of us have had this happen to us. You're doing your job, and something bizarre happens. And I think classifying as stupid it's not helpful, because you can't train people not to be stupid. You can train people to learn about hazards, but teaching people not to click on links, we can't do that. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, by links, I'm talking in an email.
He had Crypto Prevent on his computer and it didn't work.
Wait, say again?
He had Crypto Prevent on his computer.
Correct.
It didn't work.
Yes, that's correct.
What's it work?
Not very much. And so here's the thing. But it's not that guy's fault.
No.
The guy who wrote Crypto Prevent is doing his best in an environment. And in fact, if you go look at Crypto Prevent now, Crypto Prevent is a free program. You can download it either from his site, foolishit.com, or you can go to Major Geeks is the easiest way to get it. So if you install Crypto Prevent, he now has 3 settings he didn't have before. One setting is the default setting, and then the next one says this next setting is stronger, and this setting is even stronger. And he warns you for this more strong settings, this might debilitate your computer. Like, the fact is that when you start clamping down, and Teresa, this is kind of the heart of what I'm saying, which is we can't be teaching users not to use their computers.
No, I understand that.
No, because legitimate links,
They're-
No,
people
but
send
links
and
and
stuff.
emails. That's the way most
But
malware gets in.
but links and emails happen all the time, Charisse, and we need to have them.
Right.
For
yeah.
example, let me give you an example. Suppose you're using Constant Contact to send out a newsletter, and you want to give people access to an Excel file that you've developed that's really interesting, right? Constant Contact does not allow attachments. The only way they can get that Excel file is by clicking on the
I
link.
understand that, but Constant Contact is a recognized provider, and you know that if there's a link in it.
By you. But here's the thing, customers don't know necessarily what's recognized and what's not. You could pretend to be from Constant Contact.
Now, I had a situation a couple weeks ago. A user I know, someone I know, sent me an email. You need to take a look at this, click on this link. I wasn't expecting the email. I know he would arbitrarily send me an email with a link in it without my knowing what it is. I emailed him back. I says, "Did you send me this?" He says, "No, it's a phishing scheme."
All right, so you're pointing out that there's some basic user education that we can add. Let's add that to the list. So this is user education about funny looking emails.
Yeah, and it's funny because then sometimes you run into stuff where you don't know what's going on. Like, for instance, my mother's computer, I haven't looked at the thing in a while. All I know is there's something eating the heck out of her disk space. And I was looking at it, I could have sworn she had some sort of Trojan on there. And I'm looking at it, it's like, Mom, what are you doing? How did you get this thing on here? But at the same time, like, I would never criticize my mother because she, she's not good with computers. She just Adam, you know her.
Yeah.
You met my mother
Yeah.
once, I think. And,
And she said, I'm not good with computers. She said it.
Yeah,
but
she did.
let me just emphasize something here.
Yeah.
Let me just emphasize something here. What seems obvious isn't. I'm sitting at in my coworker's office, and I get an email, and it says, starting asking me for money. Okay, come on. So I start looking at this email. Yeah, sure. There's a problem. I was talking about my car. I need to. Wait a minute. How do they get my license plate number?
That's it.
They have the
That's
model
that's
of my
the
car. It was the city of Boston. They were towing my car. This was not a scam. It was a real email. So,
Oh, God.
They were towing my car. I was parked in a cleaning zone. I didn't realize that. So the thing I want to emphasize is that if we get into this mode where we don't trust anything, we're not going to be able to communicate with each other. So it's really important not to let these people dictate the terms of what's safe and what isn't.
No, I understand that.
So I definitely agree and there's lots more to say, but I want to move on from this. There's lots of ways of helping people be more attuned to things that look funny, and I definitely agree about that. These tools, let me bear with me. We'll move on. These tools here, I think, are helpful. OpenDNS is like what Sharice is talking about in Komodo. OpenDNS is a free service that blocks known criminal websites. Web of Trust warns you when you're going to and I really recommend Web of Trust because it's very good at notifying you when a website is dodgy. And since it's crowdsourced, it's very, very effective. AdBlock Plus blocks almost all ads, which I think are a major vector, and I think using it makes sense. When you use AdBlock Plus, I also urge you to use the feature that does not allow any non-intrusive advertising. AdBlock Plus, I'll just show you. If you go, the best way to add these is in your browser. If you go to add-ons, you go to extensions and you type what you're looking for. So in this case, AdBlock Plus. Now, even within Firefox, this wonderful thing, look, they're often, actually Firefox does it really well, but if you do this in Google, you'll see all these imitators of AdBlock Plus that like AdBlock with a Swedish O.
Yeah.
It's really annoying. Be sure to get the correct AdBlock Plus. It's from adblockplus.org. This is it.
Now,
You go ahead and install, bear with me, let me just go through this. You go ahead and install it. And I want to tell you the story behind this program because it's kind of part of this fabric that we're talking about. The guy who wrote this program did it as a volunteer effort. It's the most popular program in the world. People hate ads more than they hate almost anything. To give you a sense of it, when the Do Not Call registry was getting passed in Congress by the Senate, more people contacted the U.S. Senate to beg them to pass the Do Not Call legislation than voted in the 2000 presidential election. I'm dead serious.
wow.
People hate ads. Now, if you look at this, this is AdBlock Plus. If you go if you install AdBlock Plus, it will block most ads. But here's what happened: a whole bunch of people contacted this guy and said, "You're killing me. We make our living from ads. You're destroying our ability to make a living." And he said, "Look, I understand. I'm not trying to make trouble for you. You make ads that do not get in people's faces, that don't pop up, that don't do nasty stuff, and I'll make the default of AdBlock Plus to allow those ads." So if you look here under AdBlock Plus, under filter preferences, you'll notice in the lower left-hand corner a checkbox that says allow some non-intrusive advertising.
I'm a bad girl
this
because
was-
I actually allow those.
Well, this was the compromise. Now here's the problem with the compromise from my standpoint, from a customer standpoint, and maybe from a Cryptolocker standpoint, I don't know. Suppose you need HP printer help. We're allowing non-intrusive advertising here, okay? Okay, so HP online printer support. HP. I'm going to click on this and get help from HP, right?
Although can't you see that it says ad dot something?
Yeah,
dot
you
something?
see that it's an
Yeah.
ad, but it says HP on it, and you're a customer, and your printer's not working. So you click on it thinking you're going to get help from HP.
You
This-
ignore the first part and you click on the
Captains
second.
of industry have been
Yeah.
fooled by this. I mean, lots of customers are taken in by this nonsense. It really irritates me, and it really makes me mad that Google allows it. Google's billions of dollars that it gives to charity, some of it comes from this ridiculous practice of allowing people to pay money to be at the top of the search for HP printer support. Yeah.
I blocked Google Ad Services on our firewall, so if anybody ever clicks on that,
Yeah.
it's actually complete.
What happens? What
It
happens?
doesn't complete the link.
It just
so
stops.
They get nothing.
So,
For my huge company.
Oh my
say it?
god, that happens at Patton's all the time.
So if you prefer, you can use this tool. If you don't have control over the firewall, you can go down here and uncheck Allow Non-Intrusive Advertising. Then do your refresh. They're gone.
This is from Web of Trust.
No, this is AdBlock Plus
Okay.
that does this.
Now, I'm told that there is,
Bear with me. I want to see if I can get through all of them, Patrice. Let me get through all of them. Web of Trust looks like this. It also is World of Tanks, so if you see that, that's something.
Is that a game?
yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's the game where you can play free against other people and select.
Be
your
aware
tank
that Web of
choice.
Trust only shows up after you exit and go back into the browser. So we're going to exit the browser and then go back in.
Oh lord.
So while this is happening, while we're fussing with these things do a little blocking. They can be helpful. They can reduce risk. But this is going to, as we see from this customer that had all this stuff, this is going to happen. So let's talk about backups, because my own opinion is the only real way to protect against the crypto kind of viruses is backups. This is the first time in computer history that we're not just protecting mostly against broken hard drives. The world has changed. We have people, we have people gunning. There are people now gunning. For the first time in computer history, it is lucrative to destroy someone else's data. To destroy someone else's data. I want to underline this. This criminal conspiracy, the international conspiracy, a bunch of people doing this, is unprecedented, and it will not stop
It's friggin'
using the
disgusting
methods that we're
what it
using
is.
today. The way we're dealing with this, this will continue. It's lucrative. It makes money. There's no reason why someone shouldn't pay developers to come up with better, cleverer, faster ways to do this. It's going to continue, although I do make a plea for us to think about, which is crime is not committed by the majority of people in this world. In fact,
No.
if you look at the percentage of people who actually commit crimes, it's an extraordinarily small number of people. The fact is, statistically and in every other way, most people are pretty nice. Most people are pretty decent. It's a very small number of people who are committing these crimes. And if you look carefully and find out who's actually doing the work, not the 5 or 6 or 20 or 60 people who are criminal masterminds who are leeching off these people, the people who are actually doing the grunt work here, they're good programmers. Why are they working for these sleazebags? That's my question.
Oh, I know.
And the answer is probably they're living in some poor country, or they're living in some poor place in the United States. They're people who haven't had a good upbringing. So for people who say we should not spend money on education, infrastructure, childcare, all these things, for people who are saying that and saying, and look how much we benefit. Look, we're free and we don't have to pay taxes and we can run our business any way we want. Isn't that what America's all about? The answer is no. The answer is the reason why people commit crimes is because they don't have a better alternative. Not a single one of these programmers would be doing this creepy activity if they had a taste of what a decent life was like. I assure you of this. So I just want to,
Well, some of them are just, they're a classic criminal. They'd rather do this than earn money honestly.
I'm saying I don't agree with that philosophy. I think people who commit crimes, all people who commit crimes, are doing it because they don't know better. They don't know a better way of making a living. In fact, it's much, much harder for anyone who knows anything about criminal life. It seems easy. It isn't easy.
No.
It's incredibly hard.
That's the thing.
And
They think
so
it's easier.
They think so, but they're wrong. And so our job, I think, as a society, is to teach people better. Okay? So, my opinion.
Now, I'm told that there's,
Bear with me, Teresa. I want to do Web of Trust here. So let's make sure it's in place here. I exited, and it should. I think it's going to emerge in just a moment.
Oh, guys,
But hold on, bear with me. I want to talk about backups and prevention because we only have a little bit more time. These security things, you can get them on the website and learn about them. Happy to talk more about them. But let's talk about prevention. It's really the core issue. Prevention by backup. Aside from these social changes, which I hope will happen, the only way now to protect against these people who are acting so badly is to do good backups. So let's talk really frankly and directly about what that means and what isn't a good backup. So I'm going to tell you the way we think about it, and I know there's lots of variations on this. Let me just give you the framework that we use, and you can then take that, add it to yours, make some suggestions to me to improve ours. But here are the core ideas. The core idea is that we I think I'll do it on the computer. The core idea is that you make copies of things, and you put the copies in lots of different places, and you test the copies, and you do it often. So let me emphasize that. Make copies. Make lots of copies.
Do you have a recommendation on an application?
I'm getting right there. Make copies, make lots of copies, keep them in different places. Test the copies. This is really the core issue. This is really the core activity. Many ways to do this. I'll tell you how we do it, and as I say, it's an art, not a science. So the way we do it is our core backup arrangement is to use Acronis TrueImage.
much is a license?
$50 per machine.
Actually, you can get a lot cheaper than that.
Yeah.
I've seen it for as little as $35 for even 3 machines.
There,
Go to bnug.slack.com, sign up, send out the info.
yeah, so they're variations on the price depending on sales and stuff. $50 machine has been kind of the core price for many years. So if you budget for that and you get a nice surprise, terrific.
Problem is though, when you got servers on you, it mucks.
The servers are much more expensive, so
That's the difference between that and image for Windows, hence why I like image for Windows better. Because
they're definitely going to be price differences. So
IFW does not make any difference.
so Cronus True Image, $50 per machine. Tyler, thanks so much. Thanks for coming.
Well, I'm very much.
You have our website, right? bnug.org?
I do, I'm gonna look up all that.
Excellent. Good.
Thank you very much.
Come next month. Thanks. Yeah, bye-bye.
Have a great one.
Okay, so Cronus True Image. Here's the core way we run it. We do a full backup. Let's talk about a workstation. Okay, it can be a file sharing machine or a workstation, but let's talk about workstation. A full backup every night onto an external hard drive.
Full or incremental?
No, full. No incrementals ever. Never. Again, you're getting, this is me. You don't have to agree with me. Just hear my opinion and then you can butt against it as you wish. Never ever do incremental backups. You're creating a chain. If one link in the chain is broken, you lose the backup. It just doesn't seem worth it to me. These backups are fast. They happen in the middle of the night. They don't cost anything. Just do full backups.
Yeah,
Full
because-
backup every night onto an external hard drive. These days, for most situations where you have more than one workstation, a 3 terabyte is like the sweet spot. A 3 or 4 terabyte drive is the sweet spot. If you have just one machine in your office, probably you'll get away with the $60 for a 1 terabyte drive. The range is about $60 for 1 terabyte, 80 for 2, maybe 100 for a 4 terabyte.
If you've got an emergency situation, you really don't want to be juggling incremental backups, trying to figure out which one goes first.
I couldn't have said it better. So yeah, Teresa's point is to underline that, remember, the restore is going to be in an unpleasant situation. You don't want to be doing restore and be panicking. You want things to be simple, so look ahead. And that's why we do full backups every night onto an external drive. Swap the drive once a week off-site.
That's hard to do though if you don't have people to take them for you.
So my coworker's job was to bring the backup off-site to my neighbor's house every week. And so he went there and they liked him. And they said, we have this cousin. And so he married her.
Now, what I do
That's
is.
a true story. Bear with me. Trace, hold on.
Storage
Trace,
unit.
hold it. Stop. Hold on a second.
That's Einstein's
Yeah,
theory
there are lots of details. I want to just keep on this.
Einstein's
So
theory of relativity.
he got relatives. We swap the drive once a week off-site. Once a month, bring in a third drive. And put it in a closet for the whole month. When you do your swap, test the backup. Open a file in the backup. This means you know your password. I know that sounds ridiculous. I think it's more than 50% of backup disasters are due to forgetting the password. Remember that unlike other password recovery situations where you just call Comcast up or you put in an email address or you say what your mother's maiden name is, there's none of that with a backup. You forget a backup password, you're done. There's nothing anyone can do about
I
it.
think it's actually more so a faulty backup causes more problems.
I want to focus on this issue, which is open the file. This means you know your backup password. Be sure you do this. It also is an acid test of the backup. It really worked. And I recommend that you open a recent file, preferably the novel you're working on.
Or for me, the mystical journal entry from my mystical nightly adventure to Boston from Wilmington, if you...
Okay. All right, the important thing is open something you care about, because this is a way of making sure you're really backing up the right thing. This gives you a good, solid layer of backup. It provides some protection against Cryptolocker. In particular, here's my worry in thinking about preventing Cryptolocker. Right now, these guys are green. They're not going to be green for long. I know the next thing that's going to be happening is going to be a slow Cryptolocker virus. It's going to take 2 months to encrypt your stuff. After the 2 months, the banner will come up and say, ha ha, you've overwritten all your backups, haven't you? Please give us your money. This is prevention against that. If you have that monthly backup and you're putting it away, you'll protect yourself against that. Yeah.
Have you ever encountered anything like a time-bombed ransomware, where it's out of your system, but it's waiting 2 months before it actually starts to encrypt?
I would say not yet.
0 day.
Not yet. Yeah. So the variations on these are wonderful. But the fact is, these guys are in Nepal. They can't get to a drive that's sitting in a closet. If you have your data in a place away from the computer, I would also add that all of these precautions are just good business sense anyway. They protect against short circuits, they protect against theft, they protect against embezzlement. These are good practices. All right, it's not enough. The fact is that this layer, and at this customer, although I've resisted it for years for a whole bunch of reasons, I do recommend for all my customers a second layer of backup using a different product. So in the two choices that our customers make is between a WinZip flash drive backup. This is not practical for this customer with the 90 gigs of data, although flash drives have gotten bigger and bigger, but the time of copying it is just outrageous. But if you do a WinZip flash drive backup and you have a modest amount of data, you have this wonderful situation where at nighttime you can back up to a flash drive, have it be encrypted by WinZip, it's industry standard encryption, and you have all your data with you. You can make tons of these. Put them on Christmas trees, send them to your friend's house, mail them to your mother. You can get these flash drives that have all your data on them, completely safe, and you can put them in lots of different places. That meets the mandate. Make lots of copies. So I find this a very valuable tool. And then the second thing is online backup, like Carbonite.
Oh, VM endpoint, guys, is free and believe it or not.
Oh wait,
yes.
hold on a sec, Catherine. Bear with me. Let me just explain these, and there'll be room for more.
Okay.
If not this time, the next time. So the WinZip flash drive backup, you can use a batch file with WinZip. You can use, what I recommend is you use a backup, a DOS backup file. Use a backup batch file with a program called System Scheduler from Splinterware.
What the heck is that? I know I've heard of that. But...
The main point is that the Windows scheduler is stinky.
Oh.
So use this instead.
Oh, thank you. You just actually gave me an idea. Anyway.
Also, one other
Or
thing,
you,
Adam,
bear with me, hold on a second. Online backup like Carbonite, we were talking earlier about some of the drawbacks of online backup. It takes a long time to restore files. But the fact is that if we had online backup in this situation, we would have been able to get those desktop files back. And we didn't have it. So I'm going to add that to this customer. I'm going to recommend that they do it. It's basically, here's what's complicated about it. So I just want to point out some complexities of it. Online backup means you're taking data from a customer and putting it someplace else. This raises a whole bunch of complex issues. For example, this customer happens to be an insurance company. That means that their files include driver's license numbers, social security numbers, and other information that's protected by the Mass Data Act, among other things, and HIPAA if there's medical information, if they're doing like a car accident or something. Oh my gosh. So that means, will Carbonite certify that their system is HIPAA compliant? Will they certify that it's 201 CMR 17 compliant?
Oh my God.
Yes. The answer is yes, if you buy the fancy Carbonite HIPAA expensive version for $300, whatever it is, $300 a year. So the question is, then you start scratching your head and you say, oh my God, this is an awful lot of money. And you start realizing that there's a real cost to online backup that you haven't taken into account. Different people deal with this different. I knew a law firm that said, no, we're doing online backup, no problem. I cringed, but I think everyone needs to make this decision themselves. Just be aware that in the computer business, we say physical possession is possession. Once you upload to Carbonite, you can never, ever get it back. That stuff is on a server someplace, and Carbonite has it. They may sell their company to somebody. Those servers may end up in some third world country where it gets mined 30 years from now. That's why, in general, I don't allow law firm clients to do online backup. Now, this is not an easy decision. I'm not happy about it, actually. I'm very unhappy because I want law firms to be able to have online backup. But I think about it and I say, lawsuits go on for 20 or 30 years. We know this encryption is going to get cracked. It's only a matter of when. When it does, if they start mining this stuff and they do clever searches and they bring up my customers' legal data, it's not going to be fun. Where to find this balance, I think is something we all have to be thinking about. But in thinking about preventing Cryptolocker, we need to be saying we need another layer in addition to the Acronis layer. Preferably something that's off-site that can't be reached during an infection. I think that's kind of the core lesson here. I like the physical drive being off-site. I really like that method. The fact is, Carbonite up to a point is kind of helpful. It's backing up stuff and it keeps versions. So if something gets infected, the earlier version. But I just want to emphasize this business is so full of hucksterism. I was talking with Carbonite with a customer, and the customer said, "Hey, what about Cryptolocker? What can you do for us about that?" And they said, "Oh, don't worry about Cryptolocker. We got you covered. If anything bad happens to your data, we've got these backup copies." I said, "Sir, when do you get rid of the backup copies?" And he said, "Well, after 30 days, of course." He's not really being straight when he says, "We got your back. We've got your back for 30 days." So we really you have to be asking these questions and asking, how much do these companies have your back?
Can I talk
So-
now?
Wait. I first of all want to apologize. Not apologize. I just want to say, as you see, this is a rich, interesting subject and a really important one. And I hope people will keep learning about it and talk with each other about it, and we'll talk more about ideas about it. We didn't get to the remote access part, which I'm really sad about. I hope we'll be able to do that another time. I do want to just say a quick plug for the whole area of the computer industry. Remote access made it possible for me to help this customer in a sensible way. It would have been much, much harder if I had to be there physically. Ironically, being away from them gave me more resources. I wasn't on an infected network. I wasn't anywhere near this whole situation. My access to their machine, I was protected from their stuff. It was actually, remote access in this case was actually quite lovely. And I was able to do very good, effective follow-up. So I urge people, if you're not doing remote access, to explore it. And I did want to, just to kind of keep the contract, since this was on the advertisement for the speech, I'm just going to give a very brief list of the programs I recommend you explore for online backup, for remote access. So the one that we use the most is called LogMeIn. And the key thing I want to point out about it is that it is not an economical program for most people to buy.
Not anymore.
Yes, it used to be free, and then they woke up one morning and said, "No, let's charge $150 a year." It was probably the largest increase in software costs that I've ever seen. And it was done extremely rudely. It really pissed me off.
I've seen worse, actually. I'll tell you that
Okay.
later.
I was so mad. I didn't want to have anything to do with them. My colleague calmed me down and said, "Adam, I'll talk with them." So what it ended up happening was that they have this product called LogMeIn Central. And the reason why I recommend it is that it has this very wonderful feature, which is you have Central, you get to give out LogMeIn licenses to your customers, but they actually are full LogMeIn licenses, which means your customer has a full LogMeIn account, LogMeIn access to their own computers when they want to log me into them, and you also can help them.
LogMeIn free, not pro.
No, pro. So that when they access their computers, when I use their accounts all the time. It's LogMeIn Pro. So if you have LogMeIn Central Pro, which is what I have. Yeah. So yeah, there's various stepwise of it. But if you have the LogMeIn Pro, it's expensive. But the strategy that our company uses is we charge each customer. We just pass the cost along. So we say if we help you this year, we're going to charge you this year's $12 to get a LogMeIn license. It's steal compared to the $150.
And some people
and
wouldn't
our customers know we have a policy of not making a profit from it, so they don't feel like they're actually getting a bargain. So I really recommend you explore this. It really makes sense for a computer helping company to have this to offer. It has so many advantages, including you can listen to the sounds of the computer while you're working. It has file transfer, and it's quite robust. I've even had times when I've been able to see the customers monitor when they haven't been able to. The second tool, which I really recommend, is called RAdmin. This is from radmin.com. It's a remote access software. it is not a sensible software to use with your customers because, for reasons that are totally beyond me, they don't do screen blanking and they don't do keyboard locking. They tell their customers, oh, just turn the monitor off. Like, give me a break. It's ridiculous. They have to have this feature. They don't have it. It's not safe to use this for a customer machine. But we use it internally. Our machines are radmin, which means that my students can radmin to my machine and see what I'm doing. And unlike LogMeIn, multiple people can look at the same screen. And radmin is faster than the wind. You click on it, you enter the password, you're at the other computer, you have in full screen mode. These two, and then the last thing I want to tell you about is showmypc.com. And its variant AnyDesk. The only thing about AnyDesk is they say it's only really for commercial use. So showmypc.com is for anybody. It's a great emergency tool. Customer calls you, I'm having a problem. You say, go to this website, click on download and run. They run this program, they give you a password, and you're in. Really good, quick way of getting connected. LogMeIn takes some setup work. radmin takes a fair amount of setup work. Happy to explore this on another occasion. Thanks so much for coming.